SSX. When I think about games with over-the-top energy and a groundbreaking sense of style, SSX is a game that comes to mind. From the gameplay to the music and even the packaging, everything about SSX was slick as ice. In the same vein of Tony Hawk, SSX was a series that redefined the action sports genre, and it did so by taking an even further departure from realism than its peers. It focused on arcadey elements and addictive gameplay over simulation, and it pioneered a new realm of action sports games. It was a series that was bold about its direction, and that's what separated it from the pack. I've been a huge fan of SSX, being with the series from the very first game. In this list I'm going to detail what gave the series a lasting legacy, as well as explore the titles that managed to kill its once unshakable vibe. SSX Blur. Okay, well the game isn't really that bad, but it's certainly the series' lowest mark. I had this game for Wii, and it did have some pluses. For instance, the entire soundtrack was composed by Junkie XL, which was a bold move having a single artist do the soundtrack, as every SSX game has some of the best licensed music ever, strongly rivaling Tony Hawk for best of all time. However, EA made the right choice featuring the first signed artist from their personal label, as XL's beats made sense and felt appropriate with the overall series. As a game though, but really the real problem here is the lack of content, as well as a strong sense that they did this to merely cash in on the popularity of the Wii at the time. They simply recycled the courses from SSX 3 and On Tour and added absolutely nothing except weaker versions of levels that you can get elsewhere in a better game. I think every fan of extreme sports games knows that the whole incentive is to unlock new levels. Think about it, in every extreme sports game you ever played, you're being constantly rewarded with new levels. It's the main incentive driving your engagement. In a fully fledged SSX title, I just don't understand how you could offer absolutely no levels and courses in a game that I paid full price for. Minus the simple addition of drawing shapes at the screen to do uber tricks. Not exactly enough for me to call it a real win though. I almost mostly put the blame on the Wiimote and the nunchuck for just being awkward, as they always tend to be, but at the end of the day it's really EA's fault for just not making a normal SSX game. SSX 2012. SSX is the most modern attempt at a reboot of the series back in 2012, and I gotta say, I was disappointed. This game is the most tarnishing of the series' otherwise near flawless run. It's nearly the same problem that Tony Hawk Pro Skater 5 is. It's a beloved series reboot that tries to pander to both veterans and newcomers alike, but manages to satisfy neither. I can almost exactly tell you what happened here just based off of what we publicly know about development. You may remember when this game was announced, it was called SSX Deadly Ascents, and there was a huge uproar from the online community that it was SSX Modern Warfare 2. And really, I can't say I disagree. I mean, who was asking for that? The team apparently heard this response and assured everyone that they were going back to the drawing board. The trouble was that from the beginning they went on and on about this new system they created where they could scan a real-life mountain from satellite imagery and render it in the game. Cool, but did they forget about what was great about the over-the-top wild courses from the original games? This isn't amped or steep. This is fantasy action sports, not snowboarding simulation. It totally misses the point. After hearing the complaints, it's pretty obvious what they decided to do. Instead of going in there and redesigning the game, throwing everything out, they added this ridiculous bright red twisting rail to every course, as if that makes up for the lack of fun design. It actually had the opposite effect on me. I got pretty tired fast of seeing that damn red rail over and over, making me want to avoid it entirely because I felt like it was such an added afterthought. And come on with these movesets, they're unbelievably over-responsive at the simplest nudge of your joystick. I just never felt comfortable playing this game. I'm happy they listened to the fans and tried to make the trick system more over the top like the original games, but they seriously took it too far. Seriously, from the start of the game, if I just held my analog stick in a single direction, all this stuff happened. And that just looks too ridiculous for what I'm actually doing on my controller, as well as cohesively jarring watching a dude flip around like an acrobatic dancer on his board while sailing against the painfully drab environments. It's fine reboots like this and Tony Hawk Pro Skater 5 try to adapt the franchise for newcomers by evolving in new directions, but don't take away the integrity and the heart of what made the franchise great in the first place. Just call it something else then. SSX. Alright, now to the good stuff. This brings me back to when I first got my PlayStation 2. My dad and I set it up and then we were like, well now what? You can only watch the included Matrix DVD so many times. So we went to Best Buy and they had SSX set up at the kiosk. The Best Buy guy was telling us it was the game to play. I wasn't really sure about a downhill snowboarder. I played cool boarders in 1080 and I thought Tony Hawk pretty much killed the genre. But when I walked over to the kiosk and started playing it, I was suddenly hooked. This wasn't cool boarders, this wasn't 1080, this was something entirely different. When we brought it home and I started playing it, SSX wasn't just the game to open me up to the world of next generation gaming. It was also the game that introduced me to a new style of game. I had never seen a game with such polish and flair, really amplifying extreme sports with electronic rhythm, and to this day very few titles have anything on it. One of the first things that got me was noticing that when I caught air snowboarding and fell back down to earth, the banging rush of pulsating beats would smoothly fade out and softly bleed back in as you smoothly landed back on your feet. Simply badass. There was also many simple but effective design choices that made me get really hyped. For example, I love that there was these little glass SSX signs hidden across the map and that when you broke them they revealed awesome little shortcuts. So satisfying. The biggest thing this game has over the other games is its awesome courses. Mercury City Meltdown, Tokyo Megaplex, Aloha Ice Jam was always a real favorite of mine as it starts like a normal snow mountain that slowly becomes more lush and wet the closer you get to the bottom, cultivating a moment that has you maneuvering across pieces of melted icebergs until you end up on a beach. And the final secret level, Untracked, was absolutely amazing, where you got to enjoy a completely open mountain with the absolute freedom to do whatever you wanted, smooth sailing to amazing beats. God, I love this game. SSX On Tour. Okay, so I know this is going to be a little blasphemous for fans that I rank this above SSX, but if I had to choose right now between SSX and SSX On Tour, I had to be honest with myself. It's On Tour all the way. The reason being the combo system was amped up to about 1,000,000. What I really loved a lot was when you filled up your Uber meter, you could flick your analog stick and enter into this bullet time where the game slows down but the character doesn't. And the tricks just become more and more insane the more you spin and flick around the analog stick in clever directions. It felt so good. This game made a goal of comboing down the whole mountain in slick fashion and they made it feel smooth as butter doing so. It's the only extreme sports game with a combo system that rivals the fun and ridiculousness of Tony Hawk games, and that's saying a lot. I know not everyone was into the punkier stylizations, but hey, this game introduced me to some great music like LCD sound systems, so I still consider it one of the best soundtracks ever. Play it again, guys. It's a classic. SSX Tricky. This is a game that established the character of SSX that we still remember to this day. First of all, we all remember the Run DMC track that drops every time you fill up the Tricky meter. I remember as a kid, every kid I went to school with was singing this track endlessly, and it never got old. We were all just so excited by this game. For one, the celebrity voice actors were awesome. They breathed new life into the title with an incredible cast that included Macy Gray, David Arquette, Lucy Liu to name a few. I assume these guys jumped on board because they too felt the excitement of this game that everyone else did. This is by far the most vibrant, energetic, and memorable game of the series, taking the groundwork of the game before it and going the extra mile in every possible way. It's a dazzling spectacle of oversensory exuberance and rich gameplay and sharp visuals, which is why many critics called it the best snowboarding game ever made. That is until SSX 3, the best snowboarding game ever made. SSX 3 took what they accomplished with SSX Tricky, toned down some of the zaniness, and transformed it into the richest, most lush, most richly crafted snowboarding game of all time. Instead of just having individual courses, SSX 3 had just one large interconnected course that stretched the entire length of the mountain that you could explore top to bottom. The freedom was amazing. The tone was perfection. The environments never looked more lush, the music was never more hypnotic. To this day, this game has a look that steals your attention. It's not as colorful as Tricky, but it has a more sophisticated ambient feel. It's much more focused and atmospheric, making it by far the easiest to get lost in. The thing about SSX is that it's all about putting you in a trance. It's about surfing, style, and tranquility while it wraps your ears around in a cool, slick beat. What's really amazing audio-wise is songs have 4 different mixes that the game selects from depending on whether you're on the track, off the track, in the air, or have your Uber meter full. There's a 4-part remix of the Chemical Brothers' first track from their first album that I find really incredible, that I didn't even realize was in the game until I was doing this video. Additionally, there's a sense of verticality to the entirety of SSX 3 that puts you in a constant state of feeling like you're free-falling with a controlled sense of precision and grace, finding new and cooler routes of navigation every time you find yourself riding back down the mountain. I'm just always thinking about how a snowboarding game would look like this today if they really followed in the footsteps of SSX 3. Hell, even a remake of SSX 3 would be incredible. We never really got to see the fullest potential of a game like SSX 3 on a console like the PS4 or the Xbox One. It would be a hell of an amazing change up in our current gaming marketplace. Thanks again everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe. I'm so close to 1,000 subscribers. When I hit that mark, I'm going to have to do something special for you guys. I hope you were just as nostalgic as I was for SSX. My next video is likely to be a Tony Hawk idea that I discussed in the comments of my last video. After that, I have a few more quirky list video ideas just like the other videos on my channel. Stay tuned.